Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch Harlan, and welcome to the Truth Talks podcast. I'm here with producer Chad, and we're going to go ahead and recap the Chris Watts Eyes of a Monster. This one was controversial.
Oh, big time.
This one got people a little bit fired up, right?
Yeah, it did.
which is awesome, and it's fascinating. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're going to open up a discussion, you're going to have to do it by literally telling someone's story. We're going to go through this because you and I have talked about this one because we got so many different types of comments.
Right.
Let's talk about it. Let's get into that.
Yeah, so, I mean, there was comments coming in from all over the place, literally all over the world. And, they range from, comments of, great interview, one of the best interviews I've ever seen on this particular case, to people questioning the Lindstrom's knowledge of and intimacy with Chris and Shanann. I mean, it was all over the place, so...
That's what's always fascinating, right? At True Talks, when we sit down to do all this stuff and we talk about these types of stories, what we see and what I hope the listeners end up seeing is that, every time you have a guest on, they're telling their truth in that moment, right?
Yep.
And we can't forget that a lot of the things that they had said prior to, man, I mean, everything's helter-skelter. Your friends,
Right. Yeah.
are in the middle of the worst tragedy in the world, and we had to talk about, well, what if it was our friend and somebody was accusing him of one of our best friends, right?
Right.
You'd be the exact same way.
Oh, absolutely.
So I find it interesting. I mean, but that's human nature altogether.
It is.
It's
It
just
is.
human nature, and so that's interesting.
We're all critics, and but I think you hit the nail on the head with, what people say at initial interviews, like you said, when emotions are raging, they're trying to just come to terms mentally with the fact of what's going on. You're going to say stuff. You're going to recount things that later on you might look back and in more clarity and have a little bit different version of that or a little different take on that person or whatever.
No, there's so much truth to that, and one of the things that you and I talk about. Of course, we've done a lot of these things, man, and we see somebody telling their story, and even sometimes off camera, how really emotional it is for these people to do it. One of the things about this particular one that I really enjoyed was, I think they'd had plenty of time to reflect. As a matter of fact, they'd even said that they hadn't done a bunch of these because they just didn't want to.
Right.
And when you brought this story into True Talks, I was like, oh man, that's an intense case. I mean, that's something pretty crazy. But again, the whole idea of it is they were sharing their truth as they knew them, as then kind of as the case progressed and how they felt. I actually really enjoyed that segment. I mean, I think it opened my eyes to a whole lot of things. Like you don't even know what you're dealing with most people.
Well, and that's just it. And I think it wasn't that their story was, bringing up some groundbreaking news about the Watts case. What it was is I kind of like what Jeremy said, and the way he put it was they were sort of that missing link, right? So when you see the story that focuses just on those last, maybe 48 hours of, so basically that weekend, they were the piece. They were a very important piece to that story because they were the last to see them. They were the last to potentially take pictures of them, in a happy moment. And so I think their story was super compelling to us. Obviously, I have some personal connection and stuff, but I'm very grateful for them having the courage to come on and tell it. And,
Me too.
And I hope people look at it as what it is. It's just them telling their story of those last moments with them. So.
Yeah, no, I thought it was spectacular. I got a story coming up. I've shared it with you already, and I think maybe a little teaser for the audience. But I had a 2-hour conversation with a sex trafficking victim. One of the stories that we're going to run, and it was reminiscent as I was thinking about that, and I was taking all the notes and things. As I was looking back, and I knew there were a lot of controversial comments to this one, and I'm thinking, holy mackerel, because what we tend to forget is, while this person ended up in this situation, there are going to be people that are going to be like, well, if you hadn't put yourself here, right, you wouldn't have been there. And that's always interesting about the human behavior, right, which is experiential knowledge.
Isn't it funny, though, how anytime somebody's the victim of something. And I would sort of classify the Lindstroms as victims of this,
100%.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
Would
you defend me?
absolutely. Why would I not?
Right.
I mean, I know
I would
you.
defend you. I know
Yeah.
you. I'm like, no way.
I
There's
can't.
No
I
way.
mean, is it not inconceivable that we would sit here and be as close as we are all day, every day, doing Truth Talks, knowing each other the way we know each other, and for me to ever guess that you're capable of that?
Yeah.
Like
There's not a chance. I would be exactly like him. I know
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
I'd be like, there's no way. And I think what was interesting too about it is how blind he became.
Yeah.
He became blind to the kind of situations until all of a sudden things just weren't quite adding up. And then, obviously him admitting it and so on and so forth. But yeah, no, I mean, that's why some of those comments I'm like, are you serious? I mean, anybody can do anything. And I would be like, if the cops came to me and said, hey, producer Chad, I'd be like, there's not a chance in hell. There's no way.
No.
And I would fight that and then once you admit it, I'd be like, dude, what are you doing? What the hell? But
Well, and I think to where you were going with this is, we tend to always, as society, we tend to always look at the victim and almost put blame on the victim for being a victim.
yeah,
You
I know.
And I'm not saying that's there's maybe not credence to that in some cases, but certainly in the sex trafficking story, you can't say that somebody put themselves in that position knowingly. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the person that we're going to have on did not wake up one day and say, I'd really like to get into the sex trafficking arena.
Yeah.
I think this would be a fun lifestyle. I mean, that just doesn't happen.
No, it just doesn't, and that's why I love running these types of stories because I'm always fascinated by the comments. And by the way, if you ever want to get to me, just go through the comments because I read every single one of them because it's fascinating to me. It's interesting to me how people can go down a certain thought process. I think there was one guy that said, "Hey, there was nothing new in this interview." Well, no kidding. I mean, the case is done. There's not going to be any breaking news.
But then on the flip side, there was another person that commented on YouTube that said that this was one of the most interesting interviews they had ever seen on this particular case.
I know.
Everybody's got their opinion.
Well, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
That's Truth Talks.
Yeah.
It's both sides of that spectrum, right?
Well,
Truth is in the middle.
And what exactly?
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it does sound familiar. And what I thought was just interesting was just the amount of dialogue that it sparked.
That is awesome.
On all sides, and we respect everybody's opinion and stuff. Nobody was overly derogatory or anything like that.
No,
Everything
I thought it was great, and I thought they had a chance to be because there's you get a lot of emotion in those things, and rightfully so. I mean, if it when you see something like that and it's that horrific, man, it is easy to let a ton of emotions go through, and that's the whole idea behind everything we do at True Talks.
Right.
Experiential knowledge.
Yep.
You read it, you understand it, and then you let people kind of filter through their emotions, and you come up with some sort of kind of truth in the middle.
Truth in the middle.
I love it.
And I think people will find out there's a little more meaning to that than just
Coming
a
out real
catchphrase.
shortly, coming
just
out
a
real
catchphrase.
shortly.
So, but no, it was a fascinating story. It was a great podcast. We thank them for
Yes.
coming on.
It takes a lot of courage.
It does. And if you haven't seen it yet, check it out. TruthTalks.com. You can download it if you don't have time to watch it. Download it wherever you get your favorite podcast: Apple, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher. All those platforms. We're on there. It's if you're looking for it, it's Truth Talks Podcast is where you'll be able to find it on iHeart, iTunes, Spotify, all that. So,
All right. Can't wait for this week.
yeah. So this week is this is another sort of very emotional one. So,
That's all right. They're good. This is going to be an amazing one. I'm excited for this one.
yep. And to come on and tell this story, we know was extremely emotional for this person, for this family. We thank them for telling their story, and we can't wait to bring it to you.
Absolutely. Thank
All
you
right,
so much.
Tune in this week on Thursday.